populist, reflexive performance artist, you've got to know his intentions. So
Why can't he be both?
why can't you be both? Both think it's a fallacy and not a fallacy?
No, why can't he be both madman and ironic comedian and...
But fair enough. He could be both, but you wouldn't mean that he was a madman in the same way. I mean, there's a difference between a madman who we think is mad because he doesn't know what he's doing, and somebody else who our mouth falls open because he knows what he's doing, and he's still doing it.
But if
so I think if Andy Kaufman's a madman, it's in the second category. Okay, you take it.
So, thank you very much.
Don't need this to get out now, and I hope wear different hats.
Well, and also, don't you have the capabilities to do?
So far
I mean, it's equivalent to having all these facilities at your disposal.
Yeah, if you can get it.
Cloud?
Get time. And
Oh, it works. Never mind. Okay, one announcement. There are now maps to Vilas Hall located downstairs on the table where all the registration material is, so you can pick that up so you know how to get to the screening tonight. Wendy Woodson is going to moderate this panel and also act as the respondent and sort of steer things during the course of the next panel. Lisa Naugle, Dierdre Towers, Martha Curtis, and I will turn it over to Wendy now.
I just thought what we agreed to do was that each person would present, and then I would just respond very, very briefly. And I didn't do my homework, so on the spot, and then to try and really leave time to open it up so that you all can respond. And I think, you know, for all of us just to keep thinking about these issues about how one not only defines this, or doesn't define this, but then what implications that has. So just to, I think that'll be our form, and we'll wait for that discussion and those questions after everyone's spoken, rather than respond to each one of us individually. So that'll be the form that we try. And does anyone want this? It's easier to speak with this. AJ?
this works, though, no? You can all hear me? Yes. I'm Dierdre Towers, and I'm Executive Director of Dance Films Association, and I wanted... I guess it doesn't move. I wanted to thank Doug very much for this opportunity, and there are so many points that have come to mind in the last couple of days. I've decided, though, not to ramble on all my reactions, and I would stick to the paper, but I do wish to affirm a couple of thoughts that were brought up yesterday during the artist panel. I thought Daniel Nagrin's idea of a co-op of universities would be terrific, particularly since we're talking here on the curating and teaching panel. The ingenuity that that the artists found of doing things with no budget really hasn't changed much. But the presenting circuit continues to grow, and the range of dance courses continues to grow. So we can't solve it all right this moment, but I do think that, for example, Dance Films Association perhaps could, in the course of looking at all their call for entries every year, find artists that could be awarded equivalent to an artist in residency where they could do a new project at a university where there was editing facility. Now, I may be just assuming that that's that easy, but a lot of it comes down to access to equipment and space. So that's one thing. So I'll jump in to 2 months ago, Septime Weber, the artistic director of Washington Ballet, called me at Dance Films with an infectious energy in his voice. He said that he was a Cuban American who had just recently been given the opportunity to go to Cuba for the first time. He was so excited by the the dancers and appalled by their isolation that he vowed he would come up with a plan to help them. So before he'd really even finished what he had to say, I jumped in and said, oh, you'd like me to bring a portion of the festival to Cuba. I'd love to go to Cuba, and I'm sure that most of the artists would waive their fees so that we could make a presentation. The next week, coincidentally, there was a Cuban film festival at the Walter Reed. There was also just seemed Cuba was in the air. The Ismael Abela Oli, the Cuban especialista de danza, told me matter-of-factly, we are blind, to emphasize the drastic deprivation of visual stimuli from the world beyond the Cuban shores. He invited me to be part of Las Días de la Danza this April, which is an annual festival in which none of the troops, local or foreign, receive any remuneration. It all is done in the spirit of art for art's sake. As he talked, I realized that the screenings would not be enough by themselves. The impact of bringing a portion of the festival to Havana would be greatly enhanced by adding a creative element. While I immediately thought of all sorts of wonderful short stories that I've read, such as Dreaming in Cuban. I don't know if anybody's read that, but it would be a marvelous dance film. But to stick to a nitty-gritty, I suggested that we do a three-step dance video project that could excite the dancers not only to what other countries were doing, but what they could do. The project would be simply to work with one outstanding Cuban choreographer, and Septime Weber already picked one out, and go through the process of basically having that choreographer rethink his own process, be aware of his own way of seeing his own work. So the first step would be to make a standard back-of-the-house video and then study it for its cinematic potential. Secondly, we would add close-ups, choreograph the camera to suit the dance, and conceive a rhythmic relationship between the camera and the dancers. Obviously, the next step being an adaptation. And finally, we'd explore whether the piece would gain anything by shooting sections of the dance in other environments, or whether the choreography could be distilled further to suit the language of film. With these ideas in mind, we'd shoot the piece a third, and the whole process could be edited in New York and sent down to Cuba. Now, of course, I'm dreaming. I don't have any money for this. He didn't offer any money for me to fly to Cuba, but on the other hand, it seemed like a tidy model, and in my own cavalier way, I thought, well, Cuba this year, next year Brazil, year after that Ivory Coast, and go to all the countries where we don't get any video dance, and we know there's marvelous dancing. So, but then, as I'm carrying on in my mind, I started to think, well, this is really a very simple model, and doesn't charity begin at home? Couldn't this simple project be initiated in America with many of the wonderful dance companies currently absent from any representation in the media? According to a recent job employment survey by the magazine Dance and Fitness, there are over 11,000 professional dancers in America. But how many of those dancers, America's finest dancers, are represented in today's award-winning dance films? Not many. Why? One could speculate about the lack of funding and broadcast opportunities, but that never stopped the zillions of independent filmmakers from trying. Lack of interest seems the more likely reason that so few choreographers take the initiative to make a fine dance for the camera. Or could it be snobbery or a fear of the unknown? Perhaps few dancers feel they have the luxury or time or energy to learn how to communicate through another medium, to learn how to communicate with filmmakers. Exposure to the best dance films and videos, I believe, is the key. If all you've ever seen is a boring stage recording or an expensive but sterile dance made for television, then you're not inspired to make one yourself. Dance film festivals and simple screenings can, in a gentle, non-academic way, goad dancers to see themselves and their art in a fresh way. The international nature of dance film festivals helps dancers to grow longer antennas to absorb all the marvelous creative energy swirling around the globe. Dance film festivals are an efficient and inexpensive means of expanding every dancer's horizon, bringing avid fans even closer into the dance arena, and dropping barriers to anyone who may be dubious about their connection to dance. In the context of a dance film festival, dance becomes more personal and more intimate. It becomes something somehow more accessible and yet more mystifying. Live dance can be confusing and intimidating for the uninitiated, whereas the camera eye acts as a guide for the less traveled. Definitions of dance from Butoh to ballet both crystallize and dissolve when a collective audience views a dance film. It is a sensual experience, potentially more powerful than a live performance. Because of the close relationship between the cameraman and the dancer, the stranger in the audience feels more confident that she can relate to the dance and surrender to the energy within it. Particularly in the large screen events, such as the one we enjoy in excellent projection houses, such as the Walter Reed, the viewer is given an immediate antidote to isolation and depression. The combustion of the movement and grace invades your soul. When DFA's founder, Susan Brown, started the festival in 1971, she was anxious to showcase the best new dance films and spread the word to distributors and buyers. From the beginning, she represented both household names and unknown talents, big budgets and low budgets, grand to simple schemes. We have continued to show a wide spectrum of work while no longer showing instructional or academic studies, juxtaposing $250,000 budgets next to $2,000 budgets. Until 5 years ago, DFA's annual Dance Film Festival was the only festival of its kind in America. Unfortunately, the funds to market the festival were always extremely low, coming directly from Susan Brown's pockets. So therefore, the average dancer never heard of the festival. So most dancers, let alone film buffs, had never really considered what dance film was beyond MTV or a Dance in America special. Dance films have a right to their own venue, but also I believe dance films can be a liberating tool for dancers as well as filmmakers. A great dance film such as DV8's gruesome Dead Dreams of Monochrome Men, Carlos Saura's Blood Wedding, Victoria Marks and Margaret Williams' Outside In, embody many layers of secrets to the mysteries of life and how a dance film can convey this. Beyond the dance of the body beautiful, the poetic lines of long limbs, a great dance film can heighten your powers of perception and make you more aware of the dance of the mind. For example, I love the sweet fun of Elaine Summers' Absence and Presence. The entire film is a black and white abstract created by the close-up of two thighs, opening and closing. With this, she gives us a great reminder that design is everywhere. It's just a question of recognizing it and celebrating it. In dance film festivals, we can indeed celebrate the dance of the mind and or the body and or nature with a larger-than-life bravura. To push the art along so that there are more dance films worth shouting about, we need to develop the potential collaborators. Dancers need to see great dance, filmmakers need to see great films, and dance filmmakers, whether they're latent or aspiring, need to see great dance films and analyze them, as Doug keeps pushing. We must break them down, we mustn't just look at them. But how do we even get the dancers to come to the screenings? Today, many dancers have never seen Hollywood musicals, let alone the unique shorts of the French magician vaudevillian Georges Méliès. They may never have seen, it's hard for me to believe, but I know it's true, the ingenious work of Charlie Chaplin. I was shocked to hear that a young dancer had never seen the work of the film directors that were giants in my day. My love of film comes from the work of Fellini, Bergman, Hitchcock, all filmmakers whose work is not circulating now. So unless dance film classics are not included in dance film festivals, today's artists will have no sense of history. They can smugly, and perhaps, well, anyway, they can smugly think that they've invented this art form, and they can stop after their first draft because they have no frame of reference. The retrospective element we added to this year's festival, DFA's 28th annual Dance on Camera Festival, was a particularly good draw and effective. It was offered as part of 9 programs, 3 workshops, and 3 receptions, all well attended, 2 of which were sold out. Steve Montgomery, as an example, he's a member of the New York Film and Video Council, went up to the Swedish director Måns Rutherford and he said, "I loved your work with Birger Kullberg. I never thought dance films could be any good." A convert, but it took a compilation of old work to catch his attention. Only 4 years ago, when DFA first began its collaboration with the Film Society of Lincoln Center, some of the best dance films had no audience. For example, Philippe Beilog's L'Au-delà was an exquisite production with over a $500,000 budget funded by the National Film Board of Canada, based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It had an awesome, ethereal quality, but only a handful of people saw it. A shame, but this year I'm happy to say that the experimental programs with no celebrity names or celebrity dance or film names, or a genre with an easily targeted audience still brought in a full house. Something's growing. To discuss briefly the specifics of this year's festival, we could have just a little teaser. We received 165 entries from 20 countries, about 45 from Canada, as we announced we were going to do a salute to Canada. Having been repeatedly a jury member or a panel moderator in America and Europe for the Austrian-based Dance Screen and the French-based Grand Prix de Video Dance, I can say that 165 to 200 festival entries have been about the norm for the last 10 years. Just a little visual treat. Basically, that's from Golden City and the Jose Navas. It's part of the trilogy that Laura Toller produced. I particularly love that moment because when you live in the city, it's great to have a symbol of escape. Anyway, basically the same entries are submitted to all 3 festivals, give or take 50 or so that come from each host country. DFA is currently working on a way that the festivals can work together so that the international festival circuit can expand both in scope, impact, and frequency. I personally do not endorse competitions for the art of dance video because the variance in budgets, approaches, motivations, and dance genres is tremendous. Curating a program already provides an element that is highly subjective, so that labeling one program over another as, quote, the winner erodes any sense of community among the artists. However, lately we have received some pressure from distributors and, frankly, other festival presenters to reissue the prizes that DFA always gave until we started our collaboration with the Film Society. I welcome your feedback on that, and I already mentioned earlier that it would be great if we could get somehow the universities to be equivalent to the prize offerer so that they could offer space and equipment so that a new piece could be made. This year there was not one gleaming star in the festival, though the buzz was particularly favorable for National Film Board of Canada's Jenny Lagan, Living in a Great Big Way. This particular film is just straight entertainment about a terrific entertainer, but it was woven together. It was just an affirmation of dance and film. So here we go for entertainment versus art. The overall mood of festival was ebullient with a sense of discovery in the air. Unlike the Sundance Festival, which reportedly suffered from the absence this year of producer Harvey Weinstein from Miramax, DFA's Dance on Camera Festival has always been more of a ritual than a market, designed to support emerging artists for an emerging art form. The chances of getting reviews, let alone distribution offers, though there were quite a few actually this year, are slim and generally acknowledged, however grimly, by the artist as well as the festival presenters. We will in the future try at least to post capsule reviews of the entries via the dance chat rooms of the internet, and all of you must get involved. 50 words means a lot. As you know, so often that whether you're a producer of live performances or dance videos, all you need is one great line. That someone from Ohio said this was the most mind-blowing dance video they'd ever seen. They have somebody to quote other than their mother. It's important. DFA aims to serve the art as well as the artist and the public. We have one bottom line criteria, I'm saying bottom line, not the only one, but one bottom line criteria for judging the entries. If you wish you'd seen the production live, then why show the film unless there is something in the film or video, an approach or something that could inspire a filmmaker. If the video is well done but seems like standard fare or could be best studied in a library or in a classroom, we most likely will pass this entry in favor of any entries that offer something fresh, either a new talent or a novel approach. The documentaries were overall stronger than the experimental works, but then we all know the rules for good journalism are clear. Doesn't matter really whether it's a documentary about dance or it's a documentary about farming. It's clear how to find the pacing, how to make a juxtaposition of archival footage versus interviews and so on. But the creator of a dance conceived for the camera is still basically a lone pioneer dancing in the dark. Sometimes I imagine how different my job would be if I ran an independent film festival. Then I'd probably sort the entries into categories of sex, violence, horror, romance, history, children, fantasy. On one hand, I'm proud that when I sit through an afternoon of experimental dance films and receive all these sensual delights, an afternoon free of any sort of manipulative sensationalism. But then I also wonder why the makers of dance films generally ignore all the basic rules of good script writing. Rarely are there orientation shots or a sense of suspense or climax, character development, and in the absence of a plot, a clear idea with nuances and depth. It's one thing to rebel against the commercial world, and it's another to disregard all the means that they have discovered to keep the interest of a jaded, impersonal audience. We in this tiny dance film community must learn how to adapt the basic grammar and structure of good filmmaking to dance. For example, over the last couple of years, we've noticed an increase of a certain type of entry to dance film festivals, not just ours, but in Europe, all over the place. These entries are, to me, they may have their niche, but to me, they are the visual equivalent of spa music. They all have soothing sounds, minimal movement, languorous bodies in open landscapes, and lots of water. Perhaps these artists are all offering a healing message, their own antidote to the mounting excess in our culture. I really think these videos could make money. I think there is a huge spa community. I'm serious. I just got a magazine on spa retreats, and I said, you know, this could be the potential billionaire that could fund the sort of projects I want to do, dreaming in Cuba. To me, they reject the dynamism of dance and simple communication. I don't, as Daniel said, who are they talking to as they're presenting their gorgeous bodies on the rocks? It feels sort of pornographic, but at the same time, they're communing with nature. So it's happening all over. So I feel a little out of sync, and I feel like maybe this is a separate event, and maybe the only way really to learn more about it is to have the filmmakers from all these entries, I don't know, maybe 40, get all these people together and have them talk to each other, and they'll develop a community, and that's all valid in itself. Larry Billman, one of the jury members who wrote the marvelous resource book, Film Choreographers, reflected after the judging process this year, quote, filmmakers need to engage the camera in the dance. That all-seeing dance should be a participant, not merely an observer. With all of today's technology, film is the ultimate toy box for film-dance collaboration. Computer graphics, animation, and the endless special effects available. Television commercials and music videos are experimenting daily with the new and the creative possibilities. Dance filmmakers can learn, not do the same, but learn and be inspired by this. Contemporary cinema time is abbreviated to edits of only 2-3 seconds. We receive, absorb, and process information at lightning speed. Dance has always been the most natural of, quote, moving images to be captured in motion pictures and the most challenging. The chase goes on, and dance filmmakers can lead the pack. Another jury member, who's here, I believe, Joan Carlin for Wisconsin, she commented that she became aware of the many ways filmmakers create rhythm. How is rhythm created when dance is translated to video and layered with cinematic elements? There are, it seems, as many answers as there are filmmakers. Quote, rhythm implies timing, she says. Inherent to cinematic form is camera rhythm, how the camera moves or not in relation to the figures, how far or near the figure is to the camera. Does it zoom in or out? From what angle? The tempo of cuts, dissolves, and other transitions and their relationships to dancers moving within the frame. All this is another set of rhythms. I, says Joan, am drawn to films in which these rhythms remind me of something personal, a memory, an experience, a sensation. In film and video, the body and the rhythms become the story, the figures within the frame, the landscape. Time becomes a changeable dimension unconstrained by gravity and capable of sustaining, catapulting, and cycling images in any order at any speed. We in the dance world can and should be an inspiration to the film world. Eventually, they will come to us to learn how to capture energy, how to convey nonverbal relationships, and how to say the inevitable. When was the last time you saw a feature film in which the actor or actress moved well? In the Hollywood films in the 40s, directors worshipped the body as well as the face and encouraged a stylized walk in both men and women. Now the average feature film avoids a full body shot. Why? Who would venture to say? A strange irony in our time in which the body is all important. The momentum behind dance films is building. The presenters and producers are becoming intrepid, and perhaps someday we will woo, if not the hearts, the purses of American broadcasters and financiers again. And I believe my time is up.
Is it Martha or? I think it's Lisa.
For the lighting person, some of the images I'm going to show are a little dull, so you might want to bring down the lights before the video at some point. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Naugle, and I just want to say that my paper and presentation has been in collaboration with John Crawford, who is a Canadian theater director turned software designer. And he's now does interface design, and so we're working on dance and digital technology together. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here today, but I do want to acknowledge that he's very much a part of this process and this paper. Okay. And how I'm going to show this, I have 2 websites that have been downloaded, and these are some images that I'll go through during the talk, but they're not always related to the text, so don't be confused by that. But they are all digital material that relates to the paper. In recent years, there's been a phenomenal growth in the use of digital imagery combined with choreography. As the technology becomes more accessible, opportunities arise for applying digital image processing techniques with live dance performance. Such opportunities are both fascinating and unsettling. They're fascinating because of the new visual possibilities that are emerging for layering of images, shifting timescales, and moving back and forth between reality and fantasy. At the same time, the situation is unsettling because of the speed at which change is occurring, the rate at which different kinds of tools are becoming available to us. A sense of paradox arises from our seeming inability to make meaning from the fantastic variety of media tools now at our fingertips. In this paper, we discuss the potential for developing a grammar for the use of digital imagery specifically applied to live dance performance. The purpose of this grammar is to make a contribution to the language used to discuss film and video technology for dance performance. By grammar, we mean not only words in the way of arranging those words, but also the implications. Words which are in part being used in video and in part being used in dance. Already we have a grammar of film which is used for discussing it. As well, there's existing grammar for dance, explicit or inexplicit. This presentation is a look at existing grammar of film and existing grammar of dance and attempts to understand what extensions may be used from digital image processing, which is based on film and video. I'm going to put up just another image here. Traditionally, film and video productions are constructed through techniques of assemblage. In the editing process, shots are combined with other shots, sequenced and layered. The result is a temporal montage, a series of images assembled over time. When such film material is included as part of a dance piece, this assemblage of shots is juxtaposed with the continuous flow and transformation of dancers in the performance. The temporal montage created by the film material influences the viewer's perception of the spatial and temporal continuum created by the choreography, directly or indirectly. The dynamic of film and video is derived from the activity of sequencing, one scene or shot or frame juxtaposed with another, and then another, and then another. This process, in which 2 images are joined to create a third, is the basic grammar of film. This grammar works at many levels, in the relationship of scenes of shots within a scene and the elements of picture and movement. Wide shot, medium shot, close-up, screen direction, progression, such as these elements of grammar, such as these are the basic language of film, and are as basic to the language of film as subject and verb are to the spoken language. Studies on the grammar of film have provided us with a common language used to analyze and evaluate the visual effects. In contrast, choreography is based on dynamics of physical activity through space and time. Using the actual presence of the dancer's body as its central point, choreography can be a process of transformation. When dance performances include film or video material, the reference point for the audience can shift between the physical presence of the dancers and the non-physical presence of the projected imagery. I'm going to pull up yet another thing here. What I'm going to show you is from a live performance, and this one now includes some of the digital images that I had previously up, but now the dancer's body is in this still. Okay. In film study literature, a distinction has been made between the, quote, camera shot and the editing shot. The camera shot is that unit of film which results from the continuous action of the movie camera, from the moment we press the button to the moment we release it. The edited shot is formed from the camera shot by cutting it apart and removing the segments the filmmaker doesn't want to use. The edited shot is regarded as a basic element and building block of the language of film. It is the quote-unquote morphing upon which all language operations are performed, and from which all meaning is inferred. It is the piece that changes from one thing into something else. Creating film and video takes movement in time and space and turns it into a series of camera shots, which are then refined into editing shots. These shots are then reassembled in the editing process to produce a sequence of images that is shown on the screen. In contrast, the temporal structure of dance creation cannot be taken out of lived time. In other words, the sensibility and use of time is inseparable from the choreographic action. Viewing film and video takes a series of still images viewed sequentially between 25 and 30 frames a second. The human visual perception system turns these series of images into quote-unquote moving pictures. The temporal aspects of a viewer's perception of live dance are different. The body is quote-unquote seen at the intersection of its dimensions. Using a quote from McClory's Exploring the Paradoxes on Comparing Film and Literature, I might begin to construct a comparison between the language of dance performance alone and dance performance that uses digital image processing. Nothing on stage has any stable meaning divorced from the human agency. It is, for example, the actor or dancer who creates a sense of place, even if an elaborate representational decor is also used. So there's a long tradition of theatrical expression in which the sense of place is created exclusively by the dancers or actors, with no support from pictorial or representational setting. But even a stage with a meticulously realistic set will begin to be perceived as stage if it is left empty of dancers or actors for an appreciable amount of time. In cinema, by contrast, a screen image of a place without any human presence is still perceived to be that place. The critical factor in cinema seems to be movement, either of elements within the shot or, more importantly, of the camera itself. It is our contention that recent developments in digital image processing technology have opened up the potential for creating moving imagery that transcends the temporal montage of traditional film and dance performance. For example, existing film or video material can be transformed by digital manipulation using various image processing techniques such as edge detection, color manipulation, and time shifting. The use of digital imagery technology has resulted in the addition of a new kind of shot to the grammar of film and video. This is the processing shot, which results from the application of digital technologies to create moving picture material that may or may not be derived from the camera and the editing shots. The resulting imagery enables the evolution of another visual aesthetic of flow and transformation, which can be more closely related to the spatial and temporal continuum of dance. Projecting this imagery as part of a dance piece opens up new possibilities for integrating moving images with performance. Skipping a little bit here. If meaning in film comes from what the camera shows us and how this material is ordered and presented, then it is essentially the cutting and ordering of actions that leads the spectator to construct meaning. One could argue that the work of the dancer is not necessarily the central communicating force. It is simply one of the things the camera records and comments upon. I think what I will do is I'll just go through this. I'll tell you what this is. This was actually taken from a live performance. It was a distant performance. There were performers at 2 sites, and we also did digital image processing on top of it. So this figure in the back that's sitting, I hope you can see, is actually located in California, or was during the performance. And this figure in the front was located in Arizona. And we used real-time processing over the dancer, and that's that yellow outline there. And the original image for that, I'll go back so you can see the original image for that. Let me close this down a bit. Is this one here. Okay, and I'll just leave that up for a second. So we've been working on an experiment. It's called in vitro. And in these experiments toward the creation of this dance in vitro, we began to derive meaning by connecting the filmmaking and the choreographic material at the same time. The digital effects were produced after the rehearsal, and the name in vitro actually means something that is artificially grown outside of its environment. For example, in vitro fertilization, organic development in an artificial environment. And this term came to us while we were making a virtual trio. And can you play the video while I talk about this? So this is where you might want to turn the lights down a bit lower. And I can still read. I think I'll wait till okay. In this initial work, we took a dance segment of Tim Wilson in the center of the camera frame. We then took a segment of dancer Maya Elbaum, which you'll see in a moment, doing a solo on stage right of the video camera. And then a segment of dancer Anna Kaiser, which you'll again see later, doing her solo stage left of the camera. And all this is just some experimental work we've been doing with processing. Each of these 3 solos are approximately 1 minute long. Where is it? Oh, okay. A 5-second theme from each of the original solos was looped, repeated over and over, so the boundary between the beginning and the end of the movement is blurred. Because this was taken from a longer solo of each dancer, the loop itself sets up another theme. The idea is that this loop morphs or turns into another solo. You see this for each of the dancers, but in different relationships on the screen. These are played sequentially, but overlap more towards the end. As a result, we see Elbaum and Kaiser doing a duet, movement that never really existed in the lived choreography. This quote-unquote time and space montage puts the solos in relation to one another and eventually into the trio. In terms of the visual appearance, we decided to go for the effect of rough pencil outlines around the bodies, black on white. Although this effect looks as if it was quote-unquote drawn with heavy black pencil, it was actually created directly from the video of the dance performer using image processing techniques. In addition to showing the solos juxtaposed with each other, we also shifted time. In other words, some of the versions of the looping go very fast, faster than possible in real life. Other parts of the longer sequences are very slow, juxtaposing the fast loop solo over the movement that was the looped part from the derived version. What happened is that the looped part was synchronized with the slow part because some of it is the exact same image. The movement phrases were created in 1-hour rehearsal sessions. The video was generated during the rehearsals in a blue screen room. First, we used a variety of shots, close-up, medium, full, and long shots to capture the opening scene of the dance as a video sequence. Second, we took those shots and subjected them to digital processing. Third, we brought the process back into the rehearsal and reflected it into the making of the dance. This was an iterative process, the continual back and forth between original choreography and its digital representation. As the choreographer, the iterative process between the dance and digital processing changed my traditional approach to the dance making in that it prompted me to develop new material based on the new relationships and patterns seen on the screen. I was able to analyze and explore actions created in the digitally processed material without losing connection to the live sequences. The result is a dance/video hybrid in that the choreography was created from the processing shot, disordered and respatializing the original movement. This method investigates the implications of using the processing shot as an integral part of the development and presentation of live dance. When we actually show this piece, we're going to be using the video and the dance live dancers as well. In our approach, the digital imagery is not superimposed on the performance. Rather, it evolves with the choreography as the piece is created. In thinking about the processing, the manipulation of the choreography, our interest is in establishing aesthetic criteria based on the kinds of interaction that can be brought forth in the processing and layering of the digital bodies, both live and mediated. The technical choices made thus far in these experiments toward creation of in vitro present challenges and opportunities for pushing the boundaries of both dance making and multimedia. Of course, the meaning, effects, composition, rhythm, and lighting for the stage and the video frame require further exploration, integration, and critical thinking and discussion, which we are very aware of. But in conclusion, I'd like to point out that here what we're doing is trying to take three grammars. First, with relation to film, video, moving pictures, and second, with relation to the grammar of dance. There's probably a third, which is the screen dance, and this work is still in the process of being refined, especially in the area of environments where we see video as part of a performance. This paper is not to take the whole of moving imagery and moving pictures and dance. We propose one small addition to the grammar of video, and then given that addition, we'll see if similar additions can be made to the grammar of dance. We think there's a third shot available to the video choreographer collaboration, and this is the processing shot. As Doug Rosenberg has stated, quote, "The real question regarding the use of digital imagery in dance is one of transcendence. Does the work in question transcend its construction? In other words, are the individual tools serving a larger vision? Using technology in the service of dance and transcending these tools and their attendant contexts in the process of creating a visionary re-representation of dance as art may be referred to as post-dance, a hybrid form of dance and technology which transcends both genres toward the creator of a new form with which both technology as well as dance are in the service of." My collaborator and I, John Crawford, agree with Rosenberg in that we are looking at this kind of work not simply as a process of getting the technology to work. It's really about how we use the technology that we have access to. Unfortunately, one of the obstacles we have found in this kind of work is that the vast majority of dance studios and rehearsal spaces are not able to run projection equipment, and if they are able to have such equipment, often the equipment is not in excellent performance levels, which is necessary to get a realistic view of how this work is going to be seen in a theater. Projection screens and blue screen walls may be dirty, light bulbs burned out, ladders and other things may be broken. Such common occurrences reduce the choreographer, videographer, dancer collaboration interaction time. I guess I have 5 minutes. And so when you're in such a time bind, such special arrangements and tasks really do minimize how much quality time you can have in such a rehearsal room. So I'll quickly go to the end here. Included with all these issues concerning dance and the camera, it's important to note that 3D computer imagery has not yet secured a significant role in dance performance, despite the wide range of possibilities for visual imagery. in vitro, our exploration of exploring organic development in an artificial environment, we do want to make the processing shot as content living throughout the work. Thank you.
I guess I'm next. Can we bring up the house lights slightly? I think we need a change. It's getting close to lunchtime. I'm a dancer, a teacher, and a choreographer. And in the last 13 years of my career as a professional, I've been working in video dance. It's a passion, and it's been a through line. About 4 years ago, I took on the daunting responsibility of becoming a departmental chair at the institution where I've been teaching for the last 11 years. That's Virginia Commonwealth University Department of Dance and Choreography. And this has given me a whole ground for growth and challenge and a bird's eye view of what I've been doing over the last 11 years. The mission of this program, I think, is going to be important to my talk today because of the context in which I teach, and I'm going to talk about teaching, which I think is an important part of this conference as well. Our mission is to create an environment where young dancers can develop as professionals in the field, a challenging teaching and learning environment, and we value discipline and craft, but also a supportive community, mutual respect, diversity, and most of all, an environment in which students can develop an individual voice. The kind of students that come to us tend to be the renegades or highly individual people. Most of them are very self-motivated, which is why I've stayed there for so long in Richmond, Virginia. So my question is, why is it important to include video choreography or screen dance or motion picture dance in the extended sense or cine-dance in a university dance curriculum? Well, I think everyone in this room could answer that question. Clearly, with technology just exploding all around us, that we need to reach beyond the stage. There's so many opportunities for us to extend dance past the studio and really outside of our bodies. And this is exciting. But also, when arguing this or talking about this to university administrators, simple statistics about broadcast television shed some light on it. Americans spend an average of 25% of their time watching TV. Dance needs to become more frequently visible on television as more than something to sell fabric softener or CDs or hip-looking clothing. My partner also frequently reminds me that if a choreographer is to present a concert in a theater with 2,000 seats and fills the house for 2 nights, it reaches an audience of 4,000 viewers. That's pretty good to me. But if it reaches for example, our first video dance production reached an audience of over 1 million viewers. And those are figures given to us by the American Program Service of PBS. And now the work is also being distributed and broadcast in China and in India. So, hey, I can tour India and China and also run a dance program in Richmond, Virginia, which gives me pause, as the numbers give me pause. But these are not the reasons why I teach video dance in a university dance program. Quite honestly, I fell into working with video dance inadvertently. I was on my 5th date with a man I was beginning to like quite a bit. He showed me his photography. He had an exquisite sense of depth and dimension. I was intrigued, and of course, I wanted to show him my choreography, so this was in 1981. I got out my videos, popped them in his VCR, and we looked at the videos, and these were shot from the back of the house. We looked at the first video, and he was totally silent. So I showed him another video, and he was totally silent again. And I sort of thought, well, that's it for me. I'm out of here. But he said, no, Martha, I can't see your work. And I'm thinking, we need to solve, we've got a real problem here. It's the problem we've all been thinking about. And so next thing I knew, or as very soon, we were buying video equipment together and spending lots of time in the studio working together, exploring ways of working with movement and the camera. And soon our interest evolved beyond what Doug Rosenberg calls the documentation of dance into the creation of screen dance or video dance. And we're interested in the relationship between the camera, or really the camera operator, and the dancer. We've developed a process in which we consider the kinetic, the temporal, and the visual impact of the camera's relationship to the dancer at every moment. We threw away our dollies and our cranes and some of these other things, Steadicams, that seemed to be getting in the way of that relationship. And Bruce has developed a reputation in Richmond in the filmmaking community as sort of a walking Steadicam. It's really quite remarkable. But the subtlety that we can create with this has been really the source of my fascination with it. And beyond my directing a video dance, what happened, for example, between him and Li Chaoping in our recent work on the tracks, when they got together and began to really work on the planned shots, and the things that came out of that interaction. It was an interaction. And I've seen some things in this conference that had to do with people interacting with machines. This interaction interests me much more. The director, the camera operator, and the dancer. It's very immediate, and I think it may be one of the keys to bringing what I value in dance, which is its visceral qualities, to the screen. So Bruce Berryhill, who I really wish could be here, and he wishes he could be here too, and he can't even watch it on the webcast because he's doing a distance learning broadcast in Japanese language from Richmond, Virginia, reaching 1,200 middle school students across the country. He can't be here, but we have developed a course entitled the Video Choreography Workshop. There's another new way of defining it. The course evolved directly from our passion for exploring ways of working with the camera and movement. To us, 1 + 1 equals way more than 2, and we ask our students to join us in this exploration, and they do with very exciting results. This workshop is part of our BFA curriculum, but it is also taken by students from across the university as an elective, and that's an important part of the class. We have students from film and photography, from kinetic imagery, which includes video and animation, sculpture, which is a marvelous addition, mass communications, and sometimes theater. Faculty and members from the professional community often frequent the class as well and bring a lot. Our interest is in helping students find exciting ways of working with video and dance by drawing from the strengths of both mediums. In a nutshell, we cover basic video production, and we look at the work of other video artists to provide a context. But most importantly,